Isaac, I'm so grateful for you taking the time to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
What was school like growing up for you?
It was a mixed bag. I was really lucky to have excellent teachers and a bunch of different school experiences. I started in a Montessori school for elementary, and then I went to LMS for middle school and then Monarch High. So 3 pretty different environments. But I was lucky enough to experience a very rigid experience with the end of my LMS time, and then a pretty open-ended experience in elementary school, which set me up well for success at Monarch. It gave me a lot of different viewpoints. So I struggled early on, and then through a lot of skills building at my time at LMS with you and other teachers, I was able to do much better as my time went on at Monarch through a series of planning and more skills based around getting things done and trying, especially when I didn't want to. And that really helped me out and paid dividends when I got to college.
Yeah. So when you say struggled, like what exactly was that? Was that like struggle focusing, or what was it for you?
It was more foundational skills. Montessori was excellent for me as far as creativity and learning to think outside the box. But as far as developing skills like reading proficiency or mathematic fundamentals, it was frustrating. I got to LMS and I had been reading for probably a year, and I had no idea how to do long division or anything like that, which is something you should probably know about in 6th grade. And that was difficult. So overcoming that hurdle initially was hard, and learning to get over those was helpful, but very frustrating socially. I just didn't feel great, and it was a hard thing to get through. But once I did, it was a wonderful way to teach me how to work hard.
Yeah, well, because when I met you in middle school, you've always been a superstar athlete. What was it like to be really good in one domain, like a student athlete, and then walk into class and struggle?
It was something that was really hard to deal with, being very good in one area and feeling like I was missing the mark in the other. Eventually, those two things reconciled, but it was a very weird change of pace, going from being great to just barely getting by. You don't get to college athletics for the most part, unless you're in one of the big money sports, just based off your athletic merits. There has to be more there. And many athletes have this problem of, I want to be an excellent student, or I have interests that aren't typical for jocks or whatever. And that is something that a lot of people have to deal with. And a lot of people are dealing with in high school and middle school. They just don't know that everybody else is also dealing with this. So when you have that moment of, wow, I can be myself, I can like reading books, I can like cooking, I can like music, I can like all this stuff and still be an excellent athlete, then you really become yourself as a person, and it builds a lot of confidence, because then struggling in the classroom is similar to just struggling on the track or struggling on the field. It's just another challenge to overcome.
Let's go back to traditional classroom learning environments. If I were to talk to you in 6th or 7th grade, and I say, Isaac, I think you're one of the best learners I know, I don't think you would have responded.
I wouldn't have.
And I know you're going to be modest now and also brush this question off, but you are an unbelievable learner. No one wants to see how the sausage is made, right? Yeah. It's often messy. What do you attribute that learning to, meaning you struggled at one time and then you've gotten good at it now?
A lot of mistakes and excellent mentors. I have messed up a lot in school. I've messed up a lot in different ways. I've failed tests. I have not communicated when I needed to. I've spent too much time doing things that I wanted to do as opposed to studying for tests. And each and every time I've done that, I've had a failure that doesn't make me feel great about myself. And it hurts my self-esteem and self-image, because to me, being somebody that takes care of business regardless of the situation is very important. So when I let myself down in that way, it's something that I need to address and fix. And I wouldn't be that way if I didn't have teachers that exemplified these values growing up, that you work hard even when you don't want to. You always are respectful regardless if someone is respectful to you. And learning is of the utmost importance. It doesn't matter what you're learning, but continuing to be curious and continuing to push yourself in more ways than one. So every single failure I had, whether it was spelling the SHALT in 6th grade, which makes no sense.
I think it's the S. I think everything else would have been fine with the S. Yeah.
The S was the problem there. Or trying to write a 500-word paper in 30 minutes and realizing that I just couldn't do it, to getting to college and failing stats twice because I just didn't figure it out. It was always something to learn and always something to get better at. And those first failures really sucked. Those later failures sucked, but it was more, I'm trying really hard. This is just really hard for me, as opposed to, I'm not trying hard enough and that makes me feel inadequate.
Yeah. And you brushed through something really quick that's so important. You ran at the University of Washington.
Yeah.
You were an all Pac-12 runner. You were a flat out star on the track, and you failed stats twice.
Yep.
How did you get through the third time? Because that's what I'm always most interested about is when we keep getting backed into a corner, a lot of us want to get defensive. How did you get through it the third time?
Two things. One, I'd taken the class twice, so I knew it was coming.
It took a little bit longer, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And while that is a funny thing to say, it's true. Having a little bit of a roadmap is great. Having the notes in something I always talk about with the kids that we work with is keep the important things, get rid of all the crap you don't need, part of my language. But having all of my tests and all of my notes helped me see, okay, this is what I did well, and this is where I messed up. This is what I need to work on. And then being able to lean on people like my mom, who's a lifelong math teacher. Asking for help in an area that doesn't challenge as many people as something like pharmacology or some type of other in-depth psychological thing. So like neurophysiology or something like that, where I did well. The statistics just did not work in my brain. So having somebody explain it to me in a way that worked for me was game-changing. Having it set out as this is the way this works and this is why, as opposed to this works, just trust that this works and it's okay. So finding the building blocks of what made stats made me pass that class. Not with flying colors, but I got by.
Yeah, well, because it's such a true testament to resilience too. Because often we think, like, I hate to break your heart, you'll probably never be a stats professor. But I hope that experience brought you a lot of resilience that you can look back on now.
That and perspective. Some things come easy, some things don't. And just because somebody is very bottom of the barrel in one area doesn't mean they're not exceptional in another, which is common sense, but it's different when you experience it. I'd struggled in school, but I had yet to flat out fail classes before. And to do it back to back was just like, am I an idiot? Why am I struggling so much in this? And it's great to see for yourself that you can struggle a lot in an area and it doesn't define you as a person or as a student.
If I would have asked you back when you were failing that class, do you think you would have had that perspective in that moment that this is just one area of your life and is far from defining?
Not at the final, no. But after I finished the class and moved on and it didn't matter anymore, not that it didn't matter the process, but the fact that I had failed it 2 times before it didn't matter anymore, then probably yes.
Well, because this has got to be brutal for parents.
Especially if you're like, why, you're so smart, why can't you do this?
Yeah, and I feel like that's almost every parent in the country in some way or the other is like, I have this kid who I know is brilliant in their own way, and they're struggling in school. Do I let them fail? Do I jump in? I know you get this question as an executive function coach as well. Like, what do you say to that? I know it's situational specific, but what do you typically say about let them struggle or let them fail? Or how would you answer that?
The best way I can answer that is it's when I'm hanging out with my baby cousins.
Yeah.
We're running around doing stupid things. And they trip and fall and start screaming, right?
Yeah.
And you can go over and pick them up and be like, oh my God, are you okay? Or they can just go, oh, this really sucks. And then learn to get up on their own and brush themselves off. Obviously, if they broke their leg or they're bleeding a lot, that's one thing. But
correct.
Failing isn't a bad thing. Failing is a great thing. It's how you learn. So when your student or your child or your friend is having a hard time, knowing that they can get through it on their own and they'll build resilience and skills to get through even greater challenges. Our job as friends and partners and parents and so on is to hopefully know somebody well enough that if somebody's failing and needs our help, we can be there, but let them fail and work through things on their own. Yeah,
it's pretty similar to how I think of it as well. The big thing for us, what we do for a living is, you and I, is we give people the skills. The only thing that scares me is we see kids all the time come in and they don't have the basic skills. And so there would be no way for them to get through stats if they didn't know how to plan, organize, the basics about studying.
Absolutely.
So to give them those skills, but then they have to experience that. And we want to jump in, and it is hard.
I think it's hard because you don't want to see somebody fail, but I always underestimate this. And I think it's something that's easy to underestimate, the amount of pride and satisfaction you get when you finally overcome that obstacle. And I think that is pivotal in learning when you haven't had that moment yet, when you've been struggling or you just haven't been trying hard enough. And you finally work through something that's just so hard, you hate doing it, but you finish it and you do your best. It changes your perspective on the whole process. So having those foundational skills and being taught those foundational skills of how to work hard and how to stay organized and how to set yourself up for success gives you the opportunity to then have those moments where you can do it yourself.
That is an awesome perspective, because I think as parents, we want to jump in and we don't want to see them struggle because we love them. Yeah. It's out of pure love.
Absolutely.
But we rob them of that satisfaction of getting this deep down love and respect for ourselves because we worked through something that we didn't think we could do. How did you attack time management?
So there's 2 different areas, at least in my experience as a student athlete, for time management. There is training time management, and then there is traveling time management. And when you're training, it's when am I in class? When am I in practice? How long does it take to get somewhere? And how tired am I going to be after class? So rationing your time with hard stops in there. We have practice at 8:30 in the morning. I know I have to be up at 7, which means I should probably go to bed around 10, right? After dinner, I'm not going to be wanting to do homework. So if I have dinner at 7, that time is gone. I get done from class at around 4:30. So 4:30 to 7 o'clock dinner is prime homework time. How can I ration that time and study effectively in that time? That will depend on what classes you're taking, what's your course load. So figuring out how you learn best and putting yourself in the right situation. Can't study when I'm around people I like because they'll talk. So I have to be somewhere alone. I have to be somewhere clean. Otherwise, I want to clean it. I have to be somewhere where I have enough food and enough water. So when I pack my bag in the morning, it's what do I need to study? What are my snacks going to be? And do I have my water bottles with me? If I do that, then I pick my location, whether it's the little library on the second floor, or if it's in the back of our locker room where nobody goes. That is where I'll do my studying, and that's how I manage my time. Now, for traveling, I know this, and most people that I traveled with also feel the same. As soon as the wheels touch down on location, you're not going to do any homework. So talking to your teachers and giving them the travel letter, not just saying, I'll be gone, but saying, I'll be gone. Let's come up with a plan so I can do work ahead of time. So how do you do everything you can to get ahead before you take off? And then how can you set up yourself best for success when you get back?
You have an amazing amount of self-awareness now. I'm sure a lot of parents are like, how is my student, how's my child going to get this self-awareness? How did you develop all this? And did you have this when you showed up on campus?
Oh, no, I just, once again, doing a lot of things wrong. I had an excellent group of fifth-year seniors that taught me what you do and what you don't do. I didn't do great my first quarter in school, and I need to figure out why, because if you get academically ineligible, you can lose your scholarship. And if you lose your scholarship, you're not in the school anymore. So the high stakes atmosphere of trying to stay on team and trying to perform well in school with the necessity of just getting everything done in time made it so I learned from my peers. I learned from, I was going to say my betters, but that sounds wrong. So I learned from the people older than me with more experience, and I just learned through a lot of trial and error.
Well, because there's so much self-assessment baked into what you just said.
Yeah.
You figured out how you learned. Was that just through trial and error as well?
For the most part.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of trial and error, but trial and error informed by things I knew about myself. I knew that I'm social, so if I'm with people, I wouldn't study. So I can't do that in college, so I have to find new places to be. Or I know that when push comes to shove, I'm probably going to prioritize running as opposed to school, but that's not tenable long term. So putting myself in situations where I will get my work done because it helps my running versus not doing things so I can sleep a bit more. So changing perspective and finding ways to push myself academically as opposed to just how can I push everything aside and do better on the track.
You're obviously very self-aware now. Someone in high school is watching this or their parent, and they're like, how do I help my child get this type of understanding of themselves? What kind of questions would you be asking someone who's getting ready to launch to college so they can step foot on campus and know how they learn?
So there's a lot of things that we can get bogged down in. Grades are probably first and foremost among them, whether that's ACT score, SAT score, or just trying to get a 4.0 or whatever. And those are great indicators of what we're achieving in the classroom, but they're not necessarily great indicators about how we learn. And trying to figure that out is very important when you get to college, just because of how different it can be academically, at least it was for me. The biggest things that helped me were realizing what I was doing well and why, and more importantly, what was holding me back. So I've always been good at asking questions. I've always been good at self-advocating. I haven't always been good at following through on the studying or doing things that I didn't feel like. So figuring out how I can best facilitate a successful study environment for myself. So in high school, I was in Monarch, so I would go to the library. I'd sit there alone at lunch because I had to be at school anyway. So going there by myself eliminated the social distractions, and being in the library made me feel like this is a place that I should be studying. This is a place that I should be learning, and looking forward to that time because of the sense of achievement that comes afterwards. So asking yourself, what can I do better? And how can I incentivize myself to do that better? Is that studying and rewarding yourself with movement or some sort of snack or playing a video game? Or is that putting yourself in a situation that works better, whether that's coming to a homework center or sitting alone in your room or sitting at your kitchen table because you don't want to associate playing video games on your computer in your room with doing your schoolwork or vice versa?
There's so much research behind what you just said, right? Like having designated productivity spaces.
Absolutely.
Rewarding yourself after the desired behavior. Yeah, those are great things. And the other thing I would say that you've always done, which I thought was brilliant, is you maximize office hours. You maximize before school study sessions. It's like you're really good at doubling up your time.
Yeah.
We always say that 30 minutes spent with the professor for office hours or 30 minutes spent with the teacher, that saves you a minimum hour and a half to 2 hours because you don't have to figure out how to start the task on your own. You know what to work on, when to get off track. They tell you the person who's making the test is also giving you directions, and usually they sprinkle some hints in there, right? Like, you've always been really good at that. And so starting those habits in high school, so it's not scary to talk to a teacher or professor, and having those designated work zones, I think that's a great start.
Absolutely. And I think the designated work zone specifically is very helpful. Like learning how to take that time that you have, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, and break that down into chunks. So you have a project that's due in 5 weeks. How are we going to chunk that out, right? We have to initiate these tasks. We have to make sure that we're going to get them done in a timely manner and to the highest degree of quality possible. So for me, that's breaking things down into small bits. If I'm cleaning my room, I can walk in and go, oh boy, and then say, it's just too busy, I'm not going to do it. Or I can say, I'm going to focus on the left corner, then I'm going to focus on the middle, then I'm going to focus on the desk, then I'm going to focus on the right corner. And then each of these tasks is just 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. That way you're efficient and you're focused. When you're studying, it's the same thing. I'm sitting down, spending the first 5 minutes developing my plan. I'm spending the next 10 minutes reading through my review. I'm doing the next 5 minutes of nothing. And then I'm going to start studying in earnest. I'm going to do my grade makers. I'm going to read my chapter. I'm going to do my review problems. But planning each bit of your study session is incredibly valuable, especially for me, when I'm trying to achieve something to a good level of quality in the classroom at the time.
And we know planning decreases impulsivity. And you referenced that a bunch in there. When you saw other student athletes at Washington, would they plan like their entire week out, or would they plan the day or the study session? How did that look?
It depends. So in distance running, there's two stereotypes. Usually it's the guys are not the smartest, but they run really fast. And then the girls run really, really, really fast. And they're also the best students at the school. And nobody knows how that works. So when there was a few women that were on my team that would have things planned out so far in advance that I don't even know how it helped, but that was great for them. They'd know when they were going to class, how much time they were spending between classes, when they were studying what, and what tests were happening 2 months before the point. And so they were always very organized and meticulous. And then there's my best friend who just didn't really do anything until he needed to. And he's one of those people that succeeds that way. So he had pretty much an absence of planning in the academic sphere. So these are two very different approaches, but each of them knew who their strengths were. My best friend was excellent at getting things done in a week, and him planning stressed him out. So that is, I think, harder to achieve. But then you have people like the distance running women that would just be very, very, very organized and get it done. So we saw both ends of the spectrum.
What works for you? Like would you do it a week in advance, a month in advance? Like, would you do it on Sunday nights? Did you have a routine? Like, how did that process look?
Well, I'm very impulsive, so I needed to have things planned out so I would get it done. I would set reminders. Google Calendar was excellent for me. So if I had a test, say in 3 weeks, I'd set a reminder 2 weeks out saying, hey, you have a test. And then a week and a half out saying, hey, you have a test, you should probably start studying. And then a week out saying, this next hour is when you're starting to study. And that bracketing of time really helped me out.
Yeah, what we're seeing over and over, especially with younger generations, younger than 25, all the time spent on social media and on YouTube and on their phones and on Netflix. We're becoming more and more visual.
Yep.
And what this means is abstract concepts like time, if we can find a way to make those visual, it lands really well. And that's what you saw as well.
Yes, and I still do that to this day, balancing work and training. There's a lot of time in the day to get everything done, but if I don't have it visually inputted, I'll think, oh, I have an hour between things. That's totally fine. That's not taking into account eating. That's not taking into account driving. That's not taking into account stuff like that. So visually having it up at whatever time I'm starting this to this time, and then this next time is for this, having it blocked out really helps me.
If you had to pick one routine for a high school student athlete to do well in the classroom while managing all that comes with that, what would you say?
This is less of a routine and more of a habit, but it can be turned into a routine quite easily. It's self-advocating, and not just asking for things, but building relationships with your peers, yes, but most importantly, the faculty, because that will pay later on in college if you have the rhythm of it. But when you're in high school, you have a lot of stuff going on. You're learning how to drive, and you're getting busy in ways you never expected. So learning how to build relationships with people will really help, because when January or February comes around and you get sick and you get sad and your friend's angry at you, you broke up with your girlfriend or something's going on in your home, if you are just student number 24, you can't get that much help. You won't get lenience as easily. You won't be able to climb back up out of that hole. But if you spent the beginning of the year getting to know your teachers and becoming a person as opposed to just a number, that will pay down the line.
The one that came to mind to me is when you're getting recruited, those social skills, the ability to advocate for yourself is so important. And we never talk about that. We never train that.
Absolutely. And I think this is something that I realized, and something that probably almost every single athlete realizes, unless you're the one and done type, is you're very good to get recruited by colleges, regardless if it's a D1 school or if it's an NAIA or whatever. You have to be a very high quality. But you need to be more than that. You need to be a person that has interests. You have to have flaws, and you have to have character beyond your ability to perform on the pitch. If you can be a well-rounded person, you're much more likely to be recruited because A, you'll be personable, and B, if you do good in the classroom, that helps the team GPA, which is something that coaches very much value. So how can you build your personal value to colleges is very important. One of the best ways you can do that is separating yourself from your peers by being excellent socially. And if not excellent socially, proficient and very respectful.
Would you say that's the number one piece of advice you'd give to college student athletes as well, is the ability to advocate for yourself?
No, I wouldn't. Some of them, yes.
Yeah.
But if you have gotten to the point where you are a college athlete, you're very good at a lot of things. You are very good at your sport, but you're also somebody who has waded through everybody else to get that spot. The thing that I would say is give yourself a little bit of grace. When you're a college athlete, you're probably a very harsh critic of yourself, especially right now with the new emphasis of the NIL and social media and a microscope on your entire life. It's really easy to fall into this trap of I'm not good enough, or am I good enough to be here, or nobody likes me, or oh my God, that was embarrassing, or everybody knows this happened. But if you can sit back and say, I'm here not just for a reason, but I'm here because I'm good enough to be here, or I'm in this school not just because I'm an athlete, I'm in this school because I'm a great student, or it doesn't matter that maybe I had not my best game, or maybe I got a C on that test. I'm working really hard, and that's something that's going to pay off down the line. That can completely change your perspective. If you're really hard on yourself all the time, you're just going to fall out of love with your sport. You might not do good in school, and you'll have a soured experience for the rest of your life. But if you're able to look and say, hey, this is really, really hard right now, but there's things that I can enjoy and things that I can be proud of, then it will, at least for me, completely change my perspective.
Thank you for taking the time today. And thank you for all you do with our students. It's so valuable. Thank you so much.